What's up, guys? Casey and George, the Go Bracket Racing YouTube channel. Just having a little bit of technical issues tonight, so we're coming at you at about 5:16. So here we are. Let me turn off this volume over here. It's yelling in my ear. Got it all figured out, but we got the Spring Fling Vegas Millions starting today. First of all, George, don't want to forget with all this commotion we got going on over here, we obviously got to thank Syntex Printing out in Temple, Texas. They're out there at Spring Fling Million Day. Driven Racing Oil, don't forget to use that code GBR10. Get yourself 10% off anything that they sell. No limit on that. Champs Performance Parts, he might be at the Spring Fling Million, George, and he might be taking home some money. TSR Racing Products, obviously, for all your transmission needs, and BRG 3D printed racing parts. We always got to thank them. They can literally build you anything that you could possibly ever imagine. Just give him a couple dimensions, and he will get it out to you.
Yeah, that's a fact, man. I work pretty closely there with Brian Garrett on ideas and things that he wants to get out to you. I know I'm always going to rave about the seatbelt magnets. I love those things. I don't ever have to look for my shoulder belts when I get into my race car. And so I definitely really like that facet. I love the GoPro mount. I'll probably be getting another one of those, and maybe even having him make me something for the back of Mo, something that stands up in the air, because I'm going to get one of those 360 cameras that's going to bring a little bit different view. Maybe I'll be able to turn and show you what's actually transpiring throughout the whole race, especially those of you who are new to the sport of bracket racing. Like, I know we have followers who don't necessarily bracket race. They're just like spectators at a race, never been to a race before in their life sometimes. So anything I can do to help them learn, I'm gonna be after. But no, man, let's do it like we always do. Let's get a shot, or take a shot at, number one, how many people will enter the Spring Fling, and number two, who's gonna hang around and do some damage. What do you got, Casey?
Man, you're putting me on the spot here as far as the number goes. I have a whole list of people that I think could potentially win the Spring Fling main event. But as far as the number goes, man, I'm thinking last year I want to say was somewhere around like 245. And with the fuel prices and everything, I'm going to say that's going to be down just a little bit. But I don't think it's going to be down that much, because I think people that attend these style of events, I don't think that they necessarily are too worried about that type of stuff. Not to mention, I think that left coast crowd is, I mean, they're hurting for the number of races they can do. So I think they look forward every single year to going to the Spring Fling Million in Las Vegas, and I think they're coming no matter what. But I'm going to say somewhere around 212 entered in the main event. What do you think?
212 is pretty good. I was going to say 200 myself. And so if we were playing the closest to the number, I'd probably say 211 just to be one below you. But I think that's a good number. I do. I'm hoping, though, for 511. It's fine by me to have that many entries out there at the Spring Fling Million event, one of kind of the bigger events of the year, if you ask me, or at least amongst the biggest events of the year. I'd love to see that race go off and kind of bracket racing get back to the big numbers that we've seen the last couple of years. So I think that 211 is what I'm gonna say 211, man. What you guys got in the chat? By the way, open discussion. We got some things that we're gonna talk about here that I know a lot of you probably ponder. I know I do. I know I do. It's a fact. But we'll get into that here in a little bit as well. Casey, who's going to hang around and give me a three? Give me three people you think will hang around.
Three people, man. So like we were saying earlier, I don't know if this went through with all the tech issues we were having earlier. It seems like everything's running smooth now, so we're good to go. Number one, Corey Galletti, not there. That's interesting. Chris Galletti there.
That is very interesting, and I wanted to kind of allude to that early on. You know, I got Corey on the screen there for the entry to the Going Bracket Racing YouTube channel today. I know he's done quite a bit of traveling. I know he was in where were they at? Montgomery? They were in Alabama somewhere at Capital City. I don't remember where that's at. Yeah. But and running for 100, and we can get off into that today too, by the way, because I saw one of the Williams boys. A name that isn't as familiar as the other two Williams boys, knock some heads completely off of their bodies, like completely. This kid was in the lower ladder parts of everything. I don't know if there was a day he didn't make it to the ladder or the split round, to be honest. So, but that's interesting to see that Corey's not there, and and Chris is, and of course Rad. I think Rad Tech Tools may even sponsor the Spring Fling somehow, if I'm not mistaken myself.
I would say that Corey Galletti has been racing real hard lately. He's on a really good roll. I am surprised that he's not at the Spring Fling Million in Vegas, but we got the Spring Fling Galot coming up in roughly 2 weeks. So, Corey will be over there for sure and probably continue in that role. But that being said, man, I mean, surely Gage Birch and Matt Daddis will be out there, right? Surely JBR will be there. Obviously, I know Troy is there, which if Troy's there, that means Gary's there. Um, Jeff Serra and Sean Serra probably will be there. I know Doug Foley and Bryson Scruggs were leaving from Capital City saying they were driving 1,900 miles to head to Vegas. So they'll be there. I'm not sure if Jason Lynch will be there or not, but I did see the Pennington brothers were all out in Tucson, and I don't see them going all the way back to Texas when they're already that far. Do you? Especially considering Peeps is a past winner.
Well, I'd say, like I said, I saw them a couple of weeks back at CP's race. So, and I think one of their kids may have even runnered up the junior dragster race. Actually, by the way, that junior dragster is the paint job on that bad boy. The flying airbrush must have got a hold of that. As a matter of fact, I know he did. Gerard Settles painted that car. So, heck of a paint job on a junior is all I got to say. Anyway, young man, I think it was his first race and runnered it up. So that's what I'm talking about. But I don't know if they're going to make the trip, being as they were in Tucson, like you said, already on the left coast, and then headed on back for CP's race to head on back out to Vegas. So pretty interesting to say the least.
Definitely, man. And I can tell you one person or two people, actually, in fact, that should that probably are going to pull something pretty big on one of the days for sure are the Bogackis, Luke and Jess both, because they've been kind of living at Las Vegas for the last, seems like a month or so. So they got a lot of laps down there. And, I'm fairly certain they were doing some testing out there for a while before the national and the divisional that were out there. I'm fairly certain there was a national and divisional. I know there were one or the other. Like I said, Chris Galetti's out there, but I think that my number one pick, I think, is going to be Andy Schmall down there from Idaho. I saw that he's getting in this dragster shootout in that, I believe it is, I know they call it the banana. It's a yellow, I believe, Beretta or Illumina. Yep. So I think he's my number one pick. I look for, like I said, Luke, I think, is going to go deep. But instead of picking Luke like everybody else would, I think I'm going to pick Jess. And then my third pick, I'm going to say, man, it's between, Donovan Williams is obviously on a roll right now, but I'm going to say Gary Williams.
Yeah, you're always safe saying Gary Williams, of course. That's kind of like the cheat code. If anybody played Nintendo back in the day, that's like forward, back, AB, start, or something like that. It's the cheat code to get in front of every single game on Nintendo. But yeah, I like your choices. I see somebody in the chat saying Kevin Pollard. He's also a cheat code. If you throw out Nasty Nick Hastings, that's a cheat code. Rocky McLean says Donnie B. Hey man, I'll tell you what, Donnie B is, I ain't gonna say he's unknown because it shouldn't be there right now. You know what I mean? Burleson, that name's well known in my opinion. People I know it very well.
People don't think about it.
And the guy can race his butt off. So Troy Abercrombie even says I like that pick, Donnie B. Donnie B has a really good shot in my opinion at being deep, very deep actually. And if you let him get on a roll, he will tear you apart. It's the same as Daddis. If Daddis is out there, if you let that man see too many win lights, he'll get in a groove in that little Sunfire and he'll load everybody up. So is it a star? Hey, what is that? A Sunbird?
It's a what is it? Now you got me all confused. You said too many things. I'm pretty sure it's a Starfire or something like that.
Oops.
But he's been driving that Grand Am lately.
I don't know what he's driving. It's a little. It looks like a Pontiac is all I know. That's all I got. So
it doesn't really matter, I don't think.
He all can be driving the Trent. Heck yeah, all I know is it's printing tickets and turning on the electricity, which is probably what he wants it to do. So all those are good picks, and anywhere that anywhere that data says, you probably got to worry about Gage Birch being in the system as well. So,
Right.
some pretty good picks, guys. Who you got? I see a lot of things going on in the Facebook chat. It's the only chat we get to watch today for some reason because YouTube wanted to take a nap on us or whatever the case may be. But yeah, I see some big people shouting out Troy Williams Sr. type. He went to the hospital a couple days ago for signs of a stroke. We'll definitely be keeping our eyes out on that, Christopher. Make sure everything's there, everything's okay. So, but yeah, it's a sunfire according to Kevin Noy, by the way, Casey.
Yeah, man. I don't know what it is, but I know it's in the winter circle a lot. I can tell you that. So
quite a bit.
Yeah, man. What's new for you right now? I know you've been trying to get some shocks together and whatnot for the truck, things like that. What's your thought process on that? When you got them coming?
Well, you ask the shipping department of every single parts store that you can actually call. I know I spoke to Kevin on the phone, Kevin Little on the phone, and he was looking to get some parts sent to, and he can't get them, so he had to go a different route on some things that he was trying to get done for the Black Panther. Seems to be a trend, right? I know that told me, I guess 3 weeks ago that it'd be a month. Well, that would be next week. And I would expect to have, what I need. You know what I mean? So, going with some strange double adjustables, and looking forward to making Mo dig a little bit harder off that starting line. I told you everybody last week I went from 4,800 to 3,600 on that leave chip. So, and I think I'm going to go up on the air pressure because my car's wadding up the tire pretty good. So those things put together should equal a little bit more consistency out the hole for me. But what about you, man? Tell me about the old Pontiac that you haven't given a name yet. Somebody help him with a name. I name all of Casey's toys. If you don't help me, I'm going to name it. So somebody get that thing a name.
Man, we went to KDS this weekend, which, by the way, shout out to Lorenzo Martin, North Carolina Bracket Racing page. He was out there, got to catch up with him for a little bit out there at KDS. He told me, he said, man, I might be going to Fayetteville tomorrow, or I might go to Nahana. I don't know, but I'm going somewhere racing. Well, he went down to Nahana, picked up the trophy down there. So congratulations to Lorenzo. I forget what you call that red truck. I believe it's the Red Baron, but Red Baron's already showing him that it's worth sticking around. So keep that truck around. He was telling me he has about 3 or 4 cars right now. He's worse than I am. So anyway, so congratulations to Lorenzo Martin. Anybody in the North Carolina area, obviously go check out that North Carolina Bracket Racing page if you want to know the latest of happenings of what's going on in the bracket racing community out here in the Carolinas. Lorenzo always knows. He promotes for like pretty much every track out here. So if you can't find it on there, it's because it's not going on, more than likely.
True that.
But yeah, man, we went out to KDS this weekend. We're still sneaking up on the tune-up for the Firebird, and got it to run a little bit more consistent. Unfortunately, got to 4th round, ran into Sean Carpenter over there, one of the best door car racers out in the Carolina area. And I'm 007, he's 007, and I'm 3 thou under. He dropped me on my head whenever we were at the finish line. About a half another womp, and I'd have been dead zero. So Sean made the right decision, showing why he's on the top of Loose Rocker's win list. I'm pretty sure, well, Michael Beard's in here. He can tell me if that's true or not. I'm fairly certain it is. It seems like you always see Sean Carpenter's name down deep in the standings for Loose Rockers. So, yeah, man, getting close. We're going to go out to Coastal Plains, I believe, this weekend and see if we figure a couple more things out and kind of keep on rolling. I know next week is not this weekend, but next weekend they're having a $20,000 or $21,000 race at Galat. So I'm not 100% certain if I'll go to that or not. It just depends. Having 2 race cards and a kid on the way, you don't really know if you can afford to enter that type of stuff. So maybe we'll have a successful weekend over there at Coastal Plains and be able to enter that. And then, of course, they got the Spring Fling after that. So everything shuts down for the Spring Fling because literally everybody in this area goes to the Spring Fling. So at the very least, I would say that I know one weekend my wife's going to want to open her pool, so that's what we'll be doing one of those weekends. But hopefully the Fling weekend, I'll get to go out there, hang out with some people. I know we'll have some buddies out there racing, and hopefully we'll keep that money in North Carolina.
Well, I heard that, man. And then don't forget, always take your helmet, your fire suit, and everything with you to the track. You never know who'll tap. Don't pull Kevin. You never know who will tap you on the shoulder and say, "Hey, man, you want to get in there and take a couple laps?" You never know. So definitely go to the track. That was actually the first time I ever met Troy Williams Jr. He mentioned to me, he said, never show up to a track without your helmet and your fire suit. That's pretty much the gist of that conversation. It was a late night. We were having a lot of fun. So we'll leave that at that. But so hang in there, guys. We're gonna get a few words from our sponsors, but when we come back, we're gonna start breaking into this thought process, this open discussion. The first thing I think we'll hit might be the MSD grid system, or should I say, data logging as a whole. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back to you.
TSR Racing Products has everything you need to make your Power Glide Turbo 350, Turbo 400, and 727 transmissions the best they can be on the street or at the track. With exceptional products, customer service, and over 30 years of experience, TSR Racing Products is always available to help their customers with any of their transmission needs. In-house machining ensures you only receive the best products from TSR Racing. Visit TSR Racing Products at tsr-racing.com or give them a call at 800-394-5889.
All right, guys. All right. Thanks for joining, everybody. Thanks for joining us here on Facebook only today. Looks like YouTube has something going on. I'm pretty sure everybody else is feeling the same thing, and not being able to post their live stuff or do their live streams as normal. I couldn't even do it from my cell phone, if that tells you anything. But thanks for joining us here on the Facebook page. Special shout out to TSR. If you didn't know, they've been behind Going Bracket Racing for quite some time. So TSR, we thank you for everything that you do, guys. If you got anything going on in the rear end kind of transmission area of your race car, hey, certainly give TSR a look before you go and purchase anything. I'm pretty sure they can get you what you want. They definitely have world-renowned tech service and a tech line that you can use to answer any questions that you may have. So thank you, TSR, for all that you do. But yeah, guys, so first topic of the open discussion, data loggers. So I'm going to go with Casey. Casey, you go ahead, your direction first, and let's get some questions out. Anything, chat, feel free to join in. We're going to be bouncing off of you guys with some thoughts and kind of direction as well.
Man, the thing that I have found with the very small little bit that I've done with data logging so far, which is the very, very basic, it's literally the MSD grid, which literally only tracks, whenever you just have a grid, it pretty much tracks RPM and it tracks timing. And it can also track like your battery, and that's about it, but that's kind of irrelevant. But yeah, man, it's a very minimal amount of stuff, but it's already helped me significantly whenever putting an entirely new setup in a new car. New motor, new transmission, new car. There's really nothing else that can screw you up any more than that. And I've been learning just a little bit every single time. I figured out that what I initially thought was a converter issue, the second time turned out to be a shock issue. I adjusted the shocks, smoothed out the graph, and I think they're incredibly valuable. In fact, I'm in the process of, I sold my Harley and I'm planning on building a new car right now. I actually got the chassis kit and everything, and that's all starting to get put together at my dad's house right now. And so hopefully sometime next year we'll be getting the new car out. But I've already decided with that new car, part of the cost of building a new car is going to be buying a data logger, simply because of the little bit that I've found out with just a little bit of information. And I can't imagine if I had all this extra information, how much more I could figure out. Is it your converter? Is it the tire spinning? Is the tire spinning because the shock settings? Like there's so many things you can figure out. And I know Michael Beard knows a lot about this type of stuff. And I know Jerry Bonfield, he'll get on here in a little while, and he's been beating my head into the ground as far as telling me I need a data logger for, I want to say, 5 years now. And it's the truth, man. I'm starting to become a believer.
Yeah, definitely, man. And I'm going to tell you now, I don't have a data logger on my car at all. Okay, nothing yet. But I'm with Casey here. At least the grid will be in my car very, very soon. I need to know what Mo's doing down low. Like you said, I'm shooting at shock issues. when it could be tire issues. I mean, I'm pretty sure they may show the same across the grid. I'm not 100% sure, but the grid may show me tire spin a whole lot different than what it would for shock adjustment, you know? So that little bit of data is going to point me in the direction of getting Mo tuned in 100% off the starting line. And that's where I need the most of the work right now. So looking into that, and I don't have 100% knowledge of the grid system, but I do know that I watched Kevin Little pull apart his data off of a grid system with the higher guns dragster. And just the data that he was able to see, even as far as for did he lift on that pass? Did he run it out the rip? Did he run it out the back? Where did he lift on that pass? Did he have? How far did the car fall back after the shift point? All of that data is something that I'm going to want to compute and calculate for the S10. So definitely something I would say is crucial. And I'm going to move into the chat because I can tell we have some comments coming. Casey, I see you looking over there too. Which one do you want to pick on first as far as comments?
Well, there's a couple of them in here right now. Chad Wisecarver's in here saying if you're not running a race pack or equivalent nowadays, you're at a disadvantage. And he says that jokingly, but at the same time, I think to an extent you can be, because I don't think that, for example, we're not heads up racers. We're not trying to kill the track every single time. So yes, in theory, basically you're going to use your race pack or your data max or, et cetera, fuel tech, all this stuff. Whatever data logger you have, you're going to use it maybe, the first month of the year trying to get everything all tuned in. But it's going to help you get that all tuned in within that first, say, month max, rather than you having to race for half the season, finally get it worked out. And now all of a sudden it's winter time and you're like, man, if I had everything all figured out and I could have trusted my car here or over here, I would have known a little bit more of what I'm running and stuff like that. And if anything, it just gives you, even if your stuff is figured out, it gives you peace of mind being like, man, did I, because I noticed this myself. I was so busy looking at this other car the other day and I won the round, but I'm over here and I'm like, man, I ripped it 5 times and I killed this much. I think that means I could have run this. Well, it turns out, going back and looking at the data, of course, the next day I didn't do it immediately, but I only ripped it actually 2 times before the finish line.
Right.
But what you don't realize is just because you think you lifted at that finish line cone in time runs, you don't. You probably run it about, in my case, 0.6 of a second past the finish line every single time. So whenever you're running a 550, you're actually running it for 6:10, which means that if you're literally looking for the timing cone and that's all you care about in time runs is when do you lift, because you're not even looking over in the other lane more than likely, then what do you think you're doing whenever you're focused 100% in on your opponent? There's plenty of times you're probably pedaling past the stripe. And if you think, for example, if you say you think you can run 550 and you rip the throttle, say 5 times and you run 555, you're going to think, okay, well, that's 5 times that 555. That means every rip was 100th of a second. Right. Now, if you only ripped it 2, that's a totally different math problem.
And so, and then you have to see where, which is the main thing I like about the MSD grids. Where did I lift? And I know this is one thing that I talked to Kevin about how the bottom of the grid, the view of the grid, doesn't actually show feet. It shows like numbers like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If it actually showed feet, now you're really talking. And I'm pretty sure Race Pack shows actual feet, like where you are on the track when the graph's doing what the graph's doing. Don't quote me on that, but and Casey, maybe you have a way to change the view on the grids on the MSD view to show you in feet at the bottom. But I know that that's
grid. Mm-hmm. The thing about the grid, and me and my buddy Adam, which by the way, shout out to Adam Booyah, they might as well paint his name in the winner's circle. If you looked at the Going Bracket Racing page, you'll see Adam Booyah is in the winner's circle again at Kinston. So I'd say he's way out in front now as far as championship's concerned. But yeah, man, we were looking at his. He said, "Oh, it slipped the tire a little bit," So we went and looked at his stuff and everything, and that's what we were talking about. Without getting into the details of what he was doing, is I was like, man, this is like a very old school type program. This is something you would expect to be on Windows 95. And I hope that the new, I hope that, Race Pack and things like that. I know Fuel Tech is a much better platform as far as how everything looks. Because Andre has a really good video on YouTube, if it works, as far as YouTube goes. Right. But Andre has a really good video explaining everything that Fuel Tech can do. So I'm going to have to give him a call before I make any decisions and figure out what types, if that's the right thing for me. But I just feel like the grid system is stuck like 10 years ago as far as what it looks like on screen. The thing that I don't like about the grid system is whenever you're looking at the graph, if you're trying to overlay graphs, you have to reset the vertical axis every single time. Whenever you load one in, like you can't overlay two graphs because whatever one is highlighted at the time, if you change the vertical axis to say I want to see between 7,500 and 4,000 RPM, then it changes it for that one, and then the other one still is like 15,000 and 0 or something like that. So then you got to go change that one, which is no big deal for 2 passes. But when you're talking about, say, 5 or 6 passes, now all of a sudden you got to go change it all the time. It's annoying, man.
This makes total sense. Makes total sense there, and I think, I think that part of the simplicity to the program is that, if I'm not mistaken myself, you can hook into the grid with multiple different types of devices. And that makes it easier for you, since it's kind of read-only or kind of rudimentary, for lack of better terms. It's not as good as what it could be. It could be just to accommodate multiple systems. That's my tech brain kind of coming out of me right there. But I do think that they should have the ability to toggle back and forth in between views and make it a little bit more user-friendly. I'm going to hit Christopher Dorn here. He says, I will say, coming from a different way, get you a LS stock car and order HP tuners. I can data log every sensor on the car, and if you learn what charts and graphs to mess with in the computer, you make it really good. You make a really good car just by using a stock GM computer. I can't necessarily comment on that, but I think I get what you're trying to say here, where you don't have to go into thousands of dollars into a complete data logging system. You can kind of cheat the system while grabbing the data that you need in order to make a good car in the first place. So I get that 100%. Danny Hoff says, I wish I could get this information on my Tesla. I don't wish that for you, Danny Hoff. Not quite yet. You know where I sit in that battle. Michael Beard chimes in and says, unless I'm actively working on a new tune-up or chasing a problem, I don't even log runs. Go ahead.
That goes back to my initial point, which is it helps you sort out your combination at the beginning of the year. Say it's a new combination, because that's typically when you'll be having a new combination. It helps you sort it out in a few weeks versus a few months. And that's what he's talking about, as from what I can tell, is that he uses it to get his combination sorted out, gets set on the kill, and go and win races rather than worried about it. And then if you do have an issue, or you do think, man, I don't understand what's going on right now. Is my converter junk? Are my tires giving up? Is it spinning in the middle? Well, then you just push that little button, log the run, and look at it between rounds, and then you know. And then maybe you can make a tire pressure adjustment, a shock adjustment. Maybe you catch a problem before a serious problem occurs. So it's just a lot easier.
The beautiful thing about even having it equipped, and take a look at Edward Torrance's question while you're in there, Casey. I think he's got a 7AL gold box. I'm not sure the grid works with that box, but I'm not 100% sure. I know you'll know better than I will. Anyway, the beauty of it all is, say for instance, I'm going first round. I'm in the first round there, and Mo runs 3 huns slower. Is it just the air? Is it something that my car spun? Did the track let go? Well, being able to even plug into a data logger, even though I'm not logging runs anymore, at least it gives me a answer to my question without having to ponder about it. I go look at the graph, and I see it spinning at 60 foot. I go look at, as Kevin would answer the question there for you, Edward, it looks like it'll work out with that gold box, but I don't have the ability to plug in and see why the car is slow. Was it the wind? Is it the shock adjustment that I need to make? Did I get out there and kill too much? I don't know. You know what I mean? But having it just tells you everything you need to know. You know what I mean? And that does it goes into it. You know, you make a setup or work on a tune-up that you want to use. Maybe your hot air tune-up. You never know. And you know, some of us don't quite have that yet. So, what are your thoughts there, Casey?
I would say whenever you're going into that, so the grid is the grid is not a, I mean, it is in a very minor form a data acquisition system. It's more or less a timing controller more than absolutely anything. And it's basically a one size fits all, where normally you have chips and stuff like that. Now it's all done electronically, and you can utilize it to shift on time. You can utilize it to shift a bunch of different gears. You know, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of things it can do, but as far as data acquisition, it does very minimum by itself. It's made to work in hand with a race pack system, which plugs into it, and now you can utilize the MSD view software, I think, to view anything a race pack records. But at the same time, you would have all your race pack, so it doesn't matter which one it is. But I would say, as far as the data acquisition system, the MSD Grid is far from a data acquisition tool. It's a very basic data acquisition and logging tool. If you're going to do anything, you would want to get like RPM or Race Pack or Datamax or Data Quest or something like that, or Fuel Tech to actually log data, if you're going to actually log meaningful data, in my opinion.
Yeah, I got you. But that's going to bring us to our next question, which we'll get into here in just a moment here. And it is the importance of not only having the data logger, or should I say, which one do you go with first, the data logger or the weather station? Give us your thoughts, guys. I'm going to hit a quick highlight on what's coming up in the next couple of weeks here in the lovely state of Texas. If you're anywhere close, which is what I always say, make sure you show up to the 6-shooter event, guys. It's coming. This is going to be epic, is the word I'm going to choose. It's going to be a pretty doggone good show. There's a lot going on with this flyer. There's a lot of people behind this flyer, including Going Bracket Racing, giving away a good case of that good old driven oil. You never know. If I don't want anybody to lose 5th round. If you make it to 5th round, I hope to God that you win. But if you just so happen to lose, you might be getting a case of something special. So at least you're going to walk away with something, as opposed to just the tail between your legs and maybe a little bit of money there. So check it out, guys. If you're going to be in the area, we got a lot going on with this particular race. And I think the gates may open at 5 on Thursday. Don't quote me. Not 100% sure there, but definitely let me know if you plan on coming. We'll try to get everybody pitted somewhere close to each other. Maybe we can get Going Bracket Racing lane or something. I'll work on it, see if I can't get that accomplished. But let's get back to our next part of the stream today here, which is going to be dealing mostly with the weather system. And let's get your thoughts here on which one you would say you better have, okay? And I'm going to start off with this one here because of CP's race. I had the luxury of pitting with Kip and Marlon and Kevin Little in the hired gun. And I see Marlon has a full weather station in his garage, in his trailer. Well, Kevin's got the little handheld Ultronics that tests the air and does all this, and he entered my time slip into that machine to give me somewhat of a benchmark. I mean, everybody knows when you go to multi-day events, first day you get a time run and probably just one, right? Well, if you're not a new entry coming into the second day, you're not getting a time run, okay? So if the weather makes any type of a change, let's say the barometric pressure goes up, let's say the water grains goes up, let's say anything, how do you figure that part out? Now, I know a lot of us have the Drag Racing weather app on our cell phones. I know I have it, right? But that only gives weather. That system that Kevin was using gave me a prediction. What are you guys using to give a quote-unquote prediction? Is there a mathematical equation? And I'm all ears if somebody knows a mathematical equation that could tell me if the air is at 3,000 feet and the barometer's here and the water grains are here. If you take this right here times that right there and divide it by that and square that around the corner, and you'll run that. If you can tell me how to do that, hey, I got a GBR, 2 GBR stickers in a hat for you right now. Let me know. But
I think Computech might have something like that. I want to say. I think it's them anyway, or maybe it's Crew Chief Pro software. Maybe, I don't know who owns that.
Eric White, Crew Chief Pro. So
yeah,
what what's the formula? Like, I want to be able to compute that,
Man,
because I need that. I mean, I'm pretty good. I'm a pretty good. I understand what Mo likes to do. Headwind, tailwind. I kind of understand it, right? But man, to have a little bit of a benchmark, a little bit of a baseline before I go up there, really gives me that much more of an edge.
right. And it kind of goes back to also a little bit of what Jeff Bonifield said a couple streams back, which is data without what do you say? Without data, you don't have anything, but also too much data can basically drive you nuts and make you think too much. The thing I've always had problems with, and we haven't used this for a really long time, so I'm sure it's came up to times now. But I know Jim Simmons had a handheld, one of the very first handheld um, weather analysis and prediction type softwares. Might have been Altronics or something like that, or Computech, but it was one of those white and red handheld.
That's Computech. That's Computech.
Yeah. So
Yep.
so anyway, he had one of those, and we noticed it was actually really inaccurate. But I mean, like I said, this was like 20 years ago. You know what I mean? I'm sure they got with the times now, but it seemed like it was accurate for cars that ran gas, but for alcohol, it was way off. Like there would be times where one time he had a dragster that was pretty fast, had like 565 in it. He's running like 460s, and let's just say, it had ran in time runs at Gateway like 465 and 466, and all of a sudden it says it's going to go 462, and it's like, not a Gateway, it's not. Whatever you're running a Gateway on alcohol with Ken Jones carburetor, you're going to run that within a number the entire night.
Night.
That's not going to happen, and it's definitely not going to pick up that much. That's how much it'll pick up with Ken Jones carburetor in Southern Illinois. That's what you're going to run. You might vary from a 65 to a 62 the entire season.
True.
So you're definitely not going to pick it up in a night. But,
True.
I'm sure that there's not as many people that run alcohol as gas in the country, or at least there didn't used to be. So they probably didn't have enough data, and your information, like we were talking about earlier, what your output is only as good as the data that you input.
True. And a special shout out over there to Ken Jones Performance, by the way. If you guys don't know who that is, just give Casey or I a message on the side. We'll get you in contact with old Ken Jones. He can definitely build in my opinion here, and I think it's a pretty good opinion, probably one of the better alcohol carburetor makers that we have in the sport. Now that's opinion, and you know how we like opinions around here at Going Bracket Racing. So, but I'm definitely a KJP fan. Just so happen to have grown up around him. So definitely. But I see there's some comments in here, and I'm gonna get after a couple of them. I know a few guys are using the Altronics. I believe that's the same one that Kevin's using there. The Perform Air has served me well. And this is Chad Weiscarper, by the way, has run entry and run predictions based on weather variables. That's where I'm shooting right there. Now I know I've saw a couple of them on Drag Race Results Classified, but man, if you blink your eye, that thing's sold. I'm telling you what, I went to type on there, I want it, and it was gone that quick. So definitely there is a positive to having even that little Computech system that you're saying, Casey. It has a predictor inside of it. Pretty sure my Uncle Tony uses one of those red and white ones, and that's made by Computech. So it definitely, as I see Christopher Dorm, he's commenting, Computech is really nice. It will learn the more you enter, and you can adjust the equation depending on what affects your car more. That's what I'm talking about. Of course, what we are talking about in this whole conversation equals, can you adjust it without data? Like with a grid or a race pack or whatever system you're using, you're able to put more data into those weather predictors, which is going to give you even more of a precise prediction. Casey, what are your thoughts?
I would say the overall problem more than anything is kind of whenever you first thought about this topic last night, which we just literally thought about by accident, pretty much just by talking, pretty much like we basically wing this entire Going Bracket Racing thing, just so you guys know. If you haven't noticed yet, me and George just basically are like, oh, let's just talk about that on GBR this week. That'll work. But anyway, man, it's like I was telling you last night. So last weekend, I've been changing stuff on my car all year. Like I said, it's brand new. That's what's expected, new to me anyway. So the problem is that let's say you get all this data and everything, and you have and your input and everything, and it's logging that the car runs this with whenever this happens, whenever XYZ happens, that equates to this happening, and this is the ET you're going to run. The problem that I saw with that is what happens whenever you're all of a sudden like, man, my car's too fat or too lean, and I got to change the jets, and you make a jet change. Now is all of that time that you had invested in this predictor wasted? You would think so, because now your car is not going to act the same at XYZ.
Yeah, I think that's a true statement. I think it's all relevant to what you've done before. If you're moving to a jet and a setup that you've never used in that car, you're kind of at square block zero, in my opinion. You may have a little bit of an idea of what that thing's going to do, and for the most part, you're not going to make it isn't going to make a drastic change. If you're making drastic changes, well, maybe you were missing on the setup altogether, in my opinion. Okay, but now that you have a little bit of data from that change, let's say now you start plugging in the log and runs. Well, I made a setup change. Let's start logging that. That way, once I leave this because it's not working where I am and go back to it, I have the data to pull on to say, this is what you did when I made this change, so let's go back to that. It's almost like top fuel tuning, in my opinion. Not quite, right? Because we don't have that much horsepower, but they have so much data from that car, from said clutch adjustment, to be able to say, let's try this because we're at this barometric pressure, the track looks like that, it's got this much grip, that, and the third. Of course, I'm talking on a grander scale with probably unlimited pocketbook, but there you have it.
Well, this is what I like Michael Beard's comment here, because this is kind of how I've always done it. He says, et cetera, et cetera. He has Computech Racehair Pro, and it can be helpful, but he says, but take it with a grain of salt. Sometimes you just have to go with the feel gauge, in quotes. And that's the truth, man. That's how I've always dialed everything. And I haven't figured out the feel out here yet, because the feel is weird out here. The air is way different out here than where we grew up. And where we grew up in Southern Illinois, I could always tell you what my car was going to run. Since I've been running junior dragsters, I mean, I had good stuff from Ken Jones, and I grew up knowing what things were running. I grew up at the racetrack, and then I moved out here. And the weird thing is, out here, it's like I feel like the sun feels weird sometimes, where it feels real hot all of a sudden, but it doesn't slow you down. And then you go look at the temperature and you're like, man, why does it feel so hot out here? But it's actually not any hotter than it was before, and it's not any more humid than it was before. And so every once in a while I got caught up being like, man, it's 500 foot and I'm already on top of this guy. And I was somehow honest, I shouldn't be catching him till about the cone. So either he has a terrible light or I'm going way under. And several of the times I was going way under. So I need to find that feel back, I guess.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure there's quite a few of us in that same predicament, because that's where I'm at. I also, Ken Jones' performance on the top of Mo, coming from Division III, Indianapolis. At the same time, there's a little bit of a track difference. There's always going to be a track difference from place to place. It is what it is. But I'm noticing that too. Not necessarily negative, but not necessarily positive either. So definitely, guys, more to come. We'll get back to the chat and your comments in just a moment. We're going to listen to BRG for a second, give them a little bit of airtime, some love. Thank you for supporting Going Bracket Racing. Be right back to you.
BRG Motorsports 3D printed racing parts are able to provide you with whatever you desire to enhance your drag racing operation. Items like safety belt magnets, nitrous bottle holders, and even quick release delay box mounts are able to be obtained from BRG Motorsports 3D printed racing parts. Have a look at top selling items such as helmet hooks and steering wheel hooks, which are proven to make it easier to maneuver throughout your race car. You can contact BRG Motorsports 3D printed racing parts at telephone number 765-729-1177.
All right. Welcome back. If you need to get a hold of BRG, just let us know here at the Going Bracket Racing YouTube channel. I'm pretty sure I got his telephone number on speed dial. Brian Garrett, thank you for what you're doing, man. Speedy recovery, what you've been going through, and get well, brother. We'll see you at the racetrack soon. But guys, back at it again. Here we go with more weather station / data logger questions and inquiries. So maybe, guys, if you're here and you have no idea what we're talking about, keep reading through that chat. There's quite a few scientists, is what I would like to call them, inside of the chat right now, who probably have a good take on what to do if you're trying to build a new setup. Where we at, Casey? You see anything in the chat?
Yeah, I see. There's quite a few things in the chat over here. There's so Dan's over here saying when he was a teenager racing at MAR and Gateway, he would average a season of data. Let's see, he'd use a grid along with his Walmart temperature humidity gauge, and with an alcohol car, won many races, but he still goes by his gut feel a lot of times. Michael Beard's saying, one year at an IHRA national event in Norwalk, Super Streets running stocks in the lanes, everyone has their weather stations out. Everyone is reading 200 slow. I go watch Super Street, and the good cars were going 1096 and 1101. It ain't fast. I don't have a. I had to open it a little more. Yeah. I don't have to dial right. Just be better than my opponent at this point. That's the truth, man. And you know, at the end of the day, it kind of goes back to what he said before. It's all about the feel. You got to be able to feel it to an extent, because those computers, while they are helpful, they can't tell you everything you need to know.
It's only a baseline. And to coin the words and take the quote from Peter Biondo himself, you have to execute regardless. When you pull up in that water box, if you have a game plan, execute that game plan, and we might not be having anything to talk about in the first place. And that doesn't matter if you have a grid system, a data logger, whatever you got in the car to help you see the data off the car, or a weather station. On the top of that weather station, you still got a track to deal with. So definitely, if you go into a race, have a game plan. What we're trying to make easier with the data loggers and the weather stations is the notion of going into that water box with a game plan that is far from the actual plan that you should have had. Okay, let's run a race and let's go down there and say, hey, man, I'm dropping right at the mile-an-hour cone. I'm gonna try to kill 2. I'm gonna try to kill 3. But if you got 4 that you need to kill, you're in trouble. Okay, so that is the name of the game, and I know it works in both lanes. It is what it is. This isn't just my car is affected, but his isn't. Most of the time, what's happening to you is happening in the other lane in the first place. What do you think, Casey?
Man, I think the thing that everybody needs to remember in this setup, or this I guess questionnaire, whatever you want to call it, is that a weather station is saying all else constant. It's saying this is what you'll run based on the weather conditions, all else constant. By all else constant, what that means is the track is exactly the same as last time. The sun didn't sit on the track. The sun didn't go behind a bunch of clouds. It's just like your reaction time. What happens whenever a big cloud cover comes over to your reaction time? Do you speed up? Do you slow down? You know, and your car's going to do the same thing on the track. So that weather station is only going to tell you a baseline. It's never going to be 100% accurate, because the track is not going to be 100% the same every single time. Did they spray it last weekend? Whenever I was racing, we made 3 runs, and then everybody spun. They sprayed the track, and all of a sudden I picked up 2 numbers in the 60. Went the fastest 60 foot I've ever went in that car. You know, needless to say, it was going to pick up a whole lot that run, just like everybody else. But that has nothing to do with changing weather conditions. It was all due to track prep, and you know, and needless to say, the round before that, I was 1 slower than I was averaging the rest of the time. So, you know, it's a good baseline, but I would say, in my opinion, if you could only afford one, I would think the data logger would be more beneficial to me personally. What do you think?
Well, and I'm still in a catch-22, to be honest. I'm in the I don't know phase of this right now. Where on one hand, I know that I'm spinning the tire. I don't know why I'm spinning the tire. Actually, I do. I have a very good idea. It's one of 2 things. And we'll figure that part out, right? That data logger system is going to show me the graph. Am I spinning it just off the 60, or am I spinning it at the shift point? How do I know? All I can do is guess or hit rewind on my GoPro and hopefully turn the volume up on my surround sound and see if I hear anything, right? That's about all I can do currently. And there's a lot of people who are better off data-wise than I am there, right? You can plug it in, you can look at the graph. At the shift point, that bad boy spun. I don't even know what to do to fix that. But I'll tell you what, at least I know it's doing it. That way I can figure out how to fix it. I can share my graph with Casey and say, Casey, look at this run, man. How's this look to you? What do you think? That's another good part of data logging, being able to give out said information to those who you trust. Not everybody needs to know how my car's performing, of course, but and so right now I'm not lost, but I definitely don't know which one is I should have that before this. I do think data logger's probably in the lead a little bit, but that weather is crucial to me. So
Best part about the data logger, I think, more than anything, is that if you have an issue that you just can't seem to figure out, you then have the data that you can send to somebody in a totally different state, or send to a tuner, or send to a trusted person that you know understands what's going on, and you can talk it over on the phone, and you're both looking at the exact same thing, being like, man, I see that I see the shock moves here whenever it should be planted, or man, I see that the tire's slipping right here, and this is what I think you could do to the shocks to make that not happen, or maybe you kill timing here and make that not happen, or stuff like that. I think that that's what's highly beneficial about somebody that's in the scenario of just trying to figure out, why can't I figure something out type thing,
Yep, and I like it too, just being able to share. I mean, we live in the world of social media, and at least somebody's going to have an opinion on why my car is doing what it's doing. And of course, you don't just always take everybody's word for it. The data is showing it to you in the first place. All you got to know is how to read that data. So
right.
Definitely, as I think more on it, this conversation is quite crucial to bracket racing. And I read someone's comment in there and said, like Brett Kepner, stick a number on it that that car's going to run, not what you think it's going to run. And kind of words to live by. You definitely don't want to go out there and leave too much on the table, especially not in today's bracket racing, because somebody's going to get inside of that number and leave you with the tail stuck between your legs. So that's how that works, right?
That's right.
Cool, man. Let's look at a couple more of these comments here. We're coming up on that good old hour mark. I know we were a little late getting in, but 52 minutes has elapsed already, so we've been moving quite along nice. I can't talk no more. Moving along quite nicely. Chad Weiscarver, Bristol is notorious for big ET changes in short time due to weather. Yeah, man, when you're racing a mountain, I bet you do have quite a few issues there. So definitely probably a place I don't want to go without either my own weather station or a rental. Hey, man, I got a good idea. Maybe we just open up a weather station rental company. Think we make any money? I probably should. Honestly, if you steal my idea, you're all going bracket racing, for crying out loud. No.
I think that only the best racers win at Bristol, and the reason that is because I don't even know if a weather station would necessarily help you out of Bristol, because I've seen in the exact same round where people at Bristol are, 5 or 6 guys in a row go 5 under, and all of them aren't set up to go 5 under, and then all of a sudden the next 5 guys or 10 guys go 5 over, and they can't run their number. I think the air changes so fast there that, the wind changes a ton there, because it's like in a valley kind of deal. It's weird, but I think so much crazy stuff happens that I think you literally just go out there and you're like, if you're at Bristol, almost your foolproof bet is to go out there and be like, all right, so in the time runs I ran, 6 flat. I'm going to dial 605 because I know I can go 605, and just go out there and may the luckiest man win. Hit the tree and take a little bit. That's about the best strategy. That's why I think Scotty Richardson won the Spring Fling Million out there.
Well, and that's to each his own too. But at the same time, you got to come in with that type of a game plan and then execute it. So Big Daddy Alan Boynton's in here talking about get your car to work in a mud hole and have it where it runs the number. Watch weather on the phone and get her done. Hey, I hear you. That's basically what I'm doing currently. Like I said, guys, I'm using a drag racing weather app, and it breaks the runs down pretty good. So, I mean, I know I called Kevin today and said, hey, what will my car run at Extreme? I guess 6 flat. Well, his weather station said 599 with a 3. So, hey, I guess I ain't that bad, but if you ain't never seen this app, I don't know if you can see it, but it's got everything you want on it. temperature, humidity, barometer, dew point, density, altitude. It's free. Drag racing weather is the name of it. So, hey, that's what I'm going to be using from this time until I get my own predictor. So, Casey, man, what we got in closing?
Nothing, man. Just like always, we want to say thanks to Syntex Printing, Driven Racing Oil, Chance Performance Parts. Champ, if you're out there, well, and Greg, if you're out there, I know you're out there, then good luck to both of you this weekend. Hopefully we see both of you in a winner's circle or down deep in the rounds all 3 of those days, 4 of those days, how many days they got. But obviously want to thank TSR Racing Products. Get to them for any of your transmission needs and BRG 3D printed parts. We want to thank him. And if you got any kind of wacky type stuff that you need, man, call Brian. He can get everything figured out for you. And don't forget to use that code GBR10 whenever you're buying Driven Racing Oil. There's no limit. Anything over $99 is going to be free shipping to your door, and you'll get it cheaper. You can't beat it, man. Like, it's legitimately, it's not even helping us out. It's just helping you guys out. That was our major request whenever we landed that deal. We want to help out all the viewers with going bracket racing. So
That's right. That's right.
You're welcome.
Not to mention give you a good up-and-coming racing oil for our sport of bracket racing. So definitely, guys, we appreciate everybody being with us through the ups, the downs, the cyberbullying that YouTube decided to do to us, and not letting us stream on YouTube today was, that's just how it goes, guys. But thanks for joining us on the Facebook channel. And as always, here at Going Bracket Racing, we will see you guys next Tuesday. Thanks for joining in.